Hello, and welcome. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. For those of you that are watching, it's Shondell here from Life Puzzle, and welcome to our Get Your Goals Keys to Achievable Outcomes session. I'm really excited to go through in this quick little tutorial around how you can start to really get your goals. Like many of us, particularly around this time of year, many of us are setting intentions. We're, creating all these things that we want to create, and often what happens is that people get into this zone where they're kind of really clear on, these wishes or these dreams or these aspirations, but then when it comes to actually creating those things, they tend to get a little bit lost. And so as you join me for today's session, I'm going to take you through a tool. Now, if you're watching this on my Facebook page and you want to actually get this workbook, then just go ahead and type below in the comments workbook, and we'll make sure that we can send you a little message and give you access to the workbook so that you can download it. If you're watching this on my page, then just go ahead and click the button below, and the workbook will turn up in your inbox. So as I said, I'm super excited to share with you today a number of different things that not only myself, but also my clients have actually put in place to ensure that they not only just have intentions or have dreams or have aspirations, but they actually know what are the specific things that they need to do in order to make that their reality, as opposed to just this nice idea that, if I could get it, it would be nice to have. And I wonder how many of you have ever been in that position where, you've got a great idea around what you're aspiring to, but then when it comes to actually, well, what do I do today? And I often find that the bigger the goal is, or the bigger the aspiration is, that generally what will happen is people will often be in that situation where it's kind of like, well, I've got plenty of time, so who's ever done that? You might have been in that situation where it's kind of like, I'm making this 1 year plan or this 3 year plan, and it's like, I've got plenty of time, I can work on that tomorrow. And so often people struggle with the idea of what are the specific action items that we need to do on a day-to-day basis. So once again, if you like the workbook, just comment below workbook, and we'll make sure that we get that to you. If you're watching this on my page, then just go ahead and hit the button and download that tool, and it'll be sent straight to your inbox. So let's get into today's session. This is about getting your goals and your keys to achievable outcomes. And so as we move through today's session, I think it's really important to start off with something that's really, really overlooked by a lot of people. And so what you see here is that often we start off with a big picture or a big aspiration in terms of what we want to create, and often that's a big concept. We're not really sure what to do with it. And then people get a little bit lost. And at the other end of the spectrum, we have these details and the specificity. And so for a lot of people, they struggle to be able to dissect that and put that down into what it is that they need to create. And so I often say that it goes dream, goal, plan, and then action. And so for a lot of people, they start off with this idea of this great big dream. There's this aspiration, I'd like to have more money is one of the particular examples, or, I don't want to be so overweight. So, I'd like to feel fitter when I walk up the stairs, etc. Whatever context your goal might be. And some of you might be working in a business context. Some of you might be more in a personal context or health and fitness. And so, often we have this idea or this aspiration, but it's extremely abstract. And as it says here, it's kind of a vision for what we'd really like to achieve. But then, often that's where people get stuck, and it's kind of like they might be able to identify the goal, which is more of the measurable item. So, how will I be able to measure the success of that goal? And so some people get stuck here, and this is the place where we actually have to start nominating. Now, when it comes to something like, making more money in your business, or, perhaps getting a pay rise, when it comes to financial goals and aspirations, or even something like a fitness or a weight loss goal, people find it quite easy to be able to nominate a number and to put something attached to it. That measurement is there. But sometimes when people say things like, I'd like to write a goal just to be happier this year. Happiness is a concept that it's pretty difficult to measure, and for most people that measurement is internal. And so I'd really like to encourage you, if you take nothing else away from this little tip today, make sure that you're bringing your goals down from these abstract concepts to something that's measurable and attainable. And then of course, once we've got the measurement of that, we want to move into a place where we've actually got a bit of a plan. And so, ultimately, if it's a big goal, if it's something that you need to do, then you probably have what we call some milestones along the way. And so, how will you know that you're on track? track. So a perfect example of that might be, I had a client of mine that wanted to shed 20 kilos over a period of 8 or 9 months. And as I don't know about you guys, but as we all know, it's pretty impossible to tick a box to be a certain weight one day and the next day be 20 kilos lighter. So it's something that has to happen over time. And for many of you that might be in business or in sales, you're working towards goals in your portfolio. It's really important that you have some milestones along the way so that you've got some good toward motivation, which we'll talk about in just a second. So what are the milestones or the markers along the way that have that you're on track to actually achieve that? And then of course we have the action part. Now this is almost the place where everyone jumps off. So, I'd love for you to look at this now and identify for yourself. Are you a person who the dream's the easy part, like you're always daydreaming ideas of what you'd love to have? Are you a person who potentially has a specific goal? You've got a measurement, when you achieve it, this will be the last thing to happen. So maybe you stay on track and you stay motivated while you're doing that. Perhaps the part where you fall down is more where you're in the plan and you're in the milestones and breaking it down into smaller pieces, or perhaps for you maybe the thing is that when it comes to the specific actions about what am I meant to do today, how will I know what those are? And basically this comes down to the habits that we have. Do the habits or the activities and the actions that you do actually support the goal? And if we were to look at this, as you can see, the arrows go in a left to right direction, but they also go this way as well. So if you're a person who does lots of actions and you're not quite sure what it is that you're aiming towards, then you might want to work this backwards and say, well, these actions that I'm doing, if I continue to do them, what are the milestones or what is the overall plan or the things that I'm reaching as I'm doing that? The same with the goal. What's the measurement of how I know I'll be successful? And then coming back to, this is my vision, this is my big picture. And so I'd love for you to have a think about, where is it for you? Is it one of those things where you always have these aspirations, these visions and these ideas about what you want to create and what you want to do? Or is it something where that part is a little challenging for you to think about? Well, I don't know where I'm going to be in 2 years. I don't know where I'm going to be in 1 year. I'm not quite sure what I want is another thing that often people will message me or get in touch with me and say, what if I don't know what I want in terms of my goal? I'm not quite sure what to do because I don't know really what I want and I haven't decided on that. And so what I'd like to highlight is a really important thing that I call that's referenced as the law of precession. And so one of the things about this, it's quite a complex topic, but I want to give you a little overview today, is that let's say that we're on a pathway to a goal. So here I am in the now, and I've got a goal in mind and I want to move towards that. And so as I move towards that, there's movement, there's momentum. And so when we look at where we are now and where we choose to go to, or the end goal or the outcome, for a lot of people who perhaps don't know exactly what it is that they want, they find themselves staying stuck or staying still here in the now, waiting for, inspiration to hit them. Or one of the other things, just had a conversation with a customer yesterday, a client who was saying, I'm just really not motivated. I'm wanting to do these things. I've got all this wish list of all these things that I want to do, but I'm not getting that momentum to actually do that. And so as we start to move forward, what we see is that people will, inhibit themselves from taking any action because they haven't decided what that goal is. And to give you an idea of this, let's say that for a really basic kind of everyday metaphor, let me say that my door's over there. And let's say that my goal or my intention is actually to walk over to that door over there. And so I've got an intention, I've got something that I'm moving towards. And so on the way of taking that first step or that second step to move to the door, I notice along my pathway that there's something else there that actually looks more enticing. And so I shift my direction and I start moving towards that. And so what the law of precession actually states is that the true purpose is usually 90 degrees from where we thought the goal was. And so if you're the kind of person that really stays stuck or stays unmotivated or waiting for inspiration to hit, one of the things I really want to impress on you today is that if you stay stuck and still waiting to decide what it is that you're aiming for, then more often than not, you'll create more limiting beliefs and what I call the itty bitty shitty committee, the group of people sitting on your shoulder telling you why you can't have what you want because you can't decide. Whereas even if this goal here is something that I really wanted when I started my journey onto that, if I'm moving towards it and I suddenly encounter my true purpose, there's nothing wrong with me saying, actually, I've recognized that this was really what I wanted. And it was through my movement and my pathway of actually heading towards what I thought the goal was that I actually really was able to see what my transformation was and what my enthusiasm was really about. And so one of the things I'd like to do today, though, as part of our Keys to Achievable Outcome and really nailing those goals, is I want to actually talk about how do we start to get that detail. We just talked about the fact that it goes dream, goal, plan, action. And what often happens for people is they have these great big grand ideas about what they'd like to do, but when it comes to asking questions around, well, what specifically will you see? What will you have? How will you know that you got it? What is it that you are really aiming for? A lot of people struggle to actually find the details that are associated with that. And so what we've included in the workbook here for you is a couple of really key questions. And in the interest of time, I'm going to give you an opportunity to actually work through these. I'm going to go through just a couple of them for you. And of course, if you have any questions or any information that you'd like around any of these specific questions, then we'd love to hear from you. Just comment question in the comment box below or reach out to us at support@lifepuzzle.com.au. And so one of the most important things to ask yourself, it's a reflective process, and by doing this you're actually starting to activate what we call your reticular activating system. When you actually start to do the critical thinking on this, it allows you to actually see what the opportunities are and starts to point that out to you in your environment. And so the first thing you need to do is begin by asking yourself, how is it possible that I actually don't have the goal that I want right now? And maybe make some dot points around that in terms of what's actually stopping you from really having that right now, and what do you need to do in order to move past that. You're activating your brain around those things. The next question, I just want to spend a moment or so on the next question. How do you state what it is that you want in the positive, and what specifically do you want? So for a lot of people, when I ask them what it is that they want, their general answer is about what they don't want. So let's say, for example, that you're working on a weight goal. And for most people, they say, I don't want to be overweight. And unfortunately, that process of saying it like that means that they're actually saying it in the negative. That's not in the positive. The word don't is a negation. Our unconscious mind or our subconscious mind does not process that word. And so what you end up saying to yourself is actually, I want to be overweight. And so that's how we encode it at a subconscious level. What we really want to do is we want to change that to what's the opposite of being overweight for you. So for some people, it is that they want to be fit and healthy. For other people, it's about being a certain weight when they stand on the scales. Or I want to, fit easily into my size, insert size or desired size here, easily and effortlessly. I'll know when I have this when I'm wearing this specific pair of pants. So we're looking at drawing down to the specifics. So taking away that abstraction of the big picture and going down into the specifics, making sure that it's stated in the positive. Then we also want to look at where we are now and actually where do we want to be, and being really clear and being really honest on that. And doing that process actually allows you to celebrate your milestones along the way. And in some cases, as we talked about when you put together the plan, it allows you to break down those little milestones along the way. Because if I'm talking about my goal as a journey, then I know where I'm starting from and where I'm going to. I can start to look at what are the steps or the milestones along the way and what are the measures of those things. In addition to that, one of the things that I find most compelling here is this specifying the outcome. And so when we have the goal, as in when I achieve it, what will I see? What will I hear? What will I feel? What will I say to myself as a result of that? And if you're not excited about your goal, if you can't visualize yourself in the place where you, as if you have it right now, then there's not going to be any emotion on it. And one of the things that, for those of you that have been following me for a little while, if you're new to this community, I want to welcome you. And one of the things that we talk about, incessantly is the fact that we live 90% of our lives unconsciously and only 10% consciously. Now, if you think about your subconscious mind or your unconscious mind, it's driven by emotion. So many people are unmotivated and they don't want to do the things that they've set out to do to getting their goals because they're just not excited about it. Like, they're doing it because they should, they're doing it because they think they have to, they're doing it because they think that's the only way that they can actually do it. But I'm really not excited about it. It's going to be hard. And so really what I'm asking you to do here is put yourself in the position where you've already got it and really tap into what are the emotions, why are you having those emotions, what is it that you see, hear, and feel that really gets you connected to that? And then, of course, we actually want to take that one step further and start to look at, how will you know when you have it? What's the last thing to happen for you to know that you got it and that it completed the way that you want it to? So that's about what we call an evidence procedure in neuro-linguistic programming. There's a few things here in the second page around making sure that, it is desirable for you. So this is what I was talking about in terms of being excited about it. What outcome will this allow you to do? Or what will this outcome allow you to do? And actually putting that down to paper. Do you need someone else to help you? Is it self-initiated or self-maintained? So for a lot of people, they write goals that are dependent on other people, and I don't have time to go into it today, but really at the end of the day, the only person that you can control is you, and your ability to be able to self-start is really important in the context of your goal. Yes, I know that some of you might have teams or you're running businesses where you've got other people that you're reliant on certain elements. And so in terms of whether or not you can look at it from the point of view of, what am I doing to really influence and to excite my team in order to be on the journey with this? So this is where we talk about, do you need assistance from someone else? Is there something, that you need to get other people on board for? This next question is around contextualization. So really get clear around where, when, how, and with whom do you want to achieve this goal? What's your measure of that success, and what's the context of it? Is it just in your business life? Is it just in your personal life? Is it for you solely? Does it make a difference for you and your family? Does it make a difference for you and your team? And actually thinking about these things actually helps to put it in your awareness. And most importantly, have you ever had this before, or what resources do you need? And do you know anyone who has? So I meet people all the time who tell me, well, I'm not confident about being able to do that because I've never done it before. And one of the things about that is that, even though you may never have been able to achieve it yourself before, one of the things that we do know is there's probably someone in your tribe or in your community, or maybe even in this community in the NLP Sales Mastery Academy here, or in the Life Puzzle community, who has achieved the kind of results that you would like to achieve. And so when we start to think about, who else has done it, or, what steps or processes did they follow? And in actual fact, this is the success that makes the success in the work that we do with our clients, because often when I'm able to articulate how one of our clients was able to follow a set of steps or procedures in order to produce a particular outcome, what happens is the person's awareness, who's never done it before, their awareness starts to open up to the point where they say, well, actually, if other people have done it, then maybe it's possible for me. So at an unconscious level, that's what happens in terms of the ability to believe that you can. And so when we start to articulate those things, the next thing that we want to do is we want to make that story into a story and to make it smart. Now, I'm sure that many of you that are watching along are familiar with the SMART principle as far as goals. We've got specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timed. 100%, you've probably heard it before. Don't tune out, because I actually have something else to say about this. One of the pieces that people miss when they do SMART is that they generally miss the element where we actually make the goal meaningful. And so if your goal isn't meaningful to you, if there is no emotion attached to what it is that you're going after, then you're probably going to miss the mark, and motivation will disappear before it even started. So when you look at writing your goal in SMART, is it specific? Is it also simple? Is it meaningful? Is it measurable? Is there a number that you can assign to it, or a particular outcome that we can see, or that we can hear, or that we can feel? Is it achievable, and have you written it as if it's now? So your subconscious mind does not know time. And so what it's often looking for is it's now, it's always now in the subconscious mind level. And so we want to write our SMART goal in the present tense language. And so my little assignment to you is that you actually want to do the keys to achievable outcome, and then actually nominate a date when you'll achieve it. And so, for example, if it's a 12-month goal, you might, nominate the month and the year. So this is day, month, and then year. And I am experiencing, insert emotion here. I see, I hear, and I feel, or I'm saying to myself, X, Y, and Z, which really inspires me. And this is the time when, if there are other people that are benefiting from the achievement of your goal, that you will actually be able to create a little story or run a little movie in your mind about the achievement of all of these things. And it should be written to a point where you can almost like see it, touch it, taste it in your mind's eye. And the power of your imagination to turn on your reticular activating system is absolutely 100% important in this context. And so I'd love to hear from you guys if you're watching on Facebook or if you're watching on my page. We'd love to hear from you in terms of what are your key takes and where are you coming unstuck. But most importantly, before we start to wrap up for today, I'd like to share with you one more key tip. And this is for those of you that may start really strong on your goals, but perhaps maybe you fall off the bandwagon a little bit, or you convince yourself that somehow it's just not meant to be. And so if you're a kind of person that does a lot of starting and not much finishing, or you find yourself, rehashing the same goals because you started really well and then you went backwards a little bit and then you started again and you went backwards a little bit, then this tip is absolutely for you. And so what I want to talk to you about is the fact that the path from now to your goal is almost never a straight line. And this is why your milestones are just so important along the way. There are going to be times where you will zig and zag in the pursuit of your goal. There may be unforeseen things that could potentially come up, or, someone has a party and that interrupts your meal planning for the week, or, you might have one of your team members away sick. If you're scaling your sales, then you might need to step back into, the sales process for a couple of weeks while that person recovers. And particularly given the current times that we're experiencing at the moment, this is something that is really poignant around making sure that we have milestones along the way, particularly if it's a big goal that sort of goes past your 3 or 6 months. And so when we look at obstacles, for a lot of people, what generally happens is, something comes along the way, it comes in and they're like, oh, this is a sign that I'm not meant to have this thing, or maybe I'm not good enough, or the itty bitty shitty committee pops up with all the reasons and all the stuff that's designed to throw you off course, and potentially, for some of you, maybe give up. And so what I want to do is I want to share with you one of my favorite tips that someone shared with me many years ago about obstacles, because believe it or not, I used to be like you in the sense that I always had big dreams, big aspirations. I knew what I wanted. I was prepared to put in the work, and then all of a sudden, bang, some kind of obstacle would come up and I'd just go, oh geez, is this meant to be a sign that I'm not meant to do this? And then I'd spend a couple of weeks in deliberation and, get myself off course, questioning, getting into paralysis by overanalysis. And then eventually I'd decide that was silly and that I'd just have another go at it. But when I think about all that time that was lost while I was waiting for, the decisive action to kick in again, it was a massive opportunity cost for me, and I bet it is for you too. So here's the frame of mind that I tend to look at obstacles now. I generally say that an obstacle is my friend. Yes, you might want to write that down, right? So an obstacle is your friend. If you think back over your experiences at times when you really triumphed and you actually got your goals, more often than not, that came from some sort of struggle, right? So in the pursuit or the journey towards your goal, there was probably a struggle, or there was probably an obstacle or something that went amiss. And when that something went amiss, it may have prompted you through sheer need and necessity to actually change tactics, or to, make a tweak to what you were doing, that then when you made that tweak and you kept moving toward that prize and you kept moving toward that goal, you actually did it faster, easier, more effortlessly, and basically achieved the goal. And when you reflect on it, generally what happens is you look back into the past and you go, wow, I can't believe she did that, or I can't believe I did that. And so what we really want to do is we want to embrace the idea of an obstacle, because what happens to most people when the obstacles come up, it's like, oh my God, catastrophe. Oh my God, I guess, geez, this is not what I wanted. And people kind of have like a little bit of a fit about it, and there's a lot of lost time. So what we really want to do is we want to look at the obstacle and say, this is a friend. This is an opportunity for me to learn something. If I needed to overcome this, then what would be the thing that I could learn from this? Or what's the little tweak that when I move past this will actually allow me to emerge stronger, more empowered, more confident, more certain of myself? And in some cases, looking at those obstacles can actually be the difference that makes a difference. Sometimes there is a shorter pathway for you to be able to get to your goal, but because you weren't presented with any challenges, you just kept doing what you've always known. And one of my favorite sayings that I learned from a manager some couple of decades ago was that if you do what you've always done, then you get what you've always got. And so today, guys, I really want to encourage you to take the Keys to Achievable Outcome work study sheet, really put some things in place. We'd love to hear about your successes and what you're doing. If you're watching this on my page, you only need to click the button down below to be able to access the workbook. If you're watching on Facebook and you would like to access the worksheets, then just pop a comment below and let us know that you'd like the workbooks, or put worksheets below, and we will make sure that we get those out to you and how you can access them. So it's been an absolute pleasure sharing with you some snippets of things that myself and my clients have done in order to make sure that they're achieving their goals, not just because they set them and they wanted them, but because they actually had a plan, they had momentum, and their habits supported that. So looking forward to hearing all of your results. Look forward to you sharing any tips below as well in terms of what you've done that's really worked for you. And until we meet again, I'm Shondell from Life Puzzle. Be well and be empowered. Bye for now.